Hello, everyone. We often hear that aging means loss, less walking, less stamina, less capacity, but that's not the whole truth. Around age 70, many individuals begin to walk less, either by choice or necessity. While this can feel like a limitation, it's actually a biological signal. Your nervous system is asking you to shift focus, to train smarter, not harder. Around the age of 70, many people notice a decrease in their mobility, less walking, less spontaneous movement, and sometimes a subtle sense that the body is slowing down. This shift is often perceived as a warning sign of aging, a sign that something is going wrong, but that perception needs to be re-examined. The decline in mobility isn't necessarily a sign of deterioration. Rather, it's a biological signal that the nervous system is asking for a different approach. It's not an end point. It's an invitation to change strategies and optimize for the stage of life you're in. Our bodies are designed to adapt, and that includes the aging body. In younger years, movement is effortless and largely intuitive. By the time we reach our 70s, our nervous system starts reallocating energy resources. Instead of defaulting to endless physical activity, the system begins to emphasize energy conservation, stability, and internal regulation. This doesn't mean the system is failing. It means it's evolving. When walking becomes less frequent, the body isn't signaling that movement should stop altogether. It's signaling that the type and purpose of movement must become more deliberate. The goal shifts from quantity to quality. For example, while long walks may become less frequent, movements that focus on improving muscle control, balance, and joint integrity take center stage. Research in neuromuscular physiology shows that after age 70, targeted movement, such as controlled resistance exercises, balance drills, or isometric holds, produces better protective effects for the body than distance-based activities. These types of exercises stimulate the brain, improve reaction times, protect against falls, and reduce the likelihood of injuries that could be life-altering. Moreover, the nervous system continues to guide these shifts based on feedback loops. If the body senses weakness in balance or stability, it limits movement to reduce risk. That's not dysfunction. It's protective intelligence. The key lies in listening to these cues and responding with strategic intervention. Rather than forcing yourself to maintain younger movement patterns, the shift should be toward movements that restore function and support autonomy. The nervous system remains plastic and adaptable well into old age, meaning that it can be retrained with consistent, focused effort. There is incredible capacity for renewal, but only if we stop interpreting decline as the end of progress. This biological recalibration opens up a new chapter, not one of limitation, but of refinement. Every change in mobility is also a piece of information. It tells us what systems need support, what patterns are no longer efficient, and where new habits can be implemented. If you treat this decline in walking not as a passive loss, but as a message from your own biology, then you can respond with tools and strategies that extend vitality. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most, with precision and purpose. This stage of life doesn't demand more hustle. It demands more intelligence in how we move, rest, and respond to the signals our body sends. Neuroplasticity doesn't retire at 70, it refocuses. While it's a common belief that the brain becomes rigid with age, neuroscience has shown that the ability of the brain to rewire itself, form new connections, and adapt to novel stimuli continues well into our later years. What changes isn't the capacity for plasticity, it's the conditions under which it's activated. In youth, plasticity is automatic and often driven by environmental overload, new skills, social development, school, career learning, and physical exploration. But after 70, the nervous system doesn't stop learning. It simply becomes more selective, requiring deliberate stimulation to stay active. The key lies in understanding that the brain is always adapting, but it adapts to what you give it. If you stop challenging your brain, it begins to prune unused connections, reinforcing only those neural pathways that are routinely activated. This means that if a person becomes passive, isolated, or disengaged, the brain will adapt to that passivity, slowly reducing the efficiency of memory, emotional regulation, and even motor control. But the reverse is equally true. If you introduce your brain to consistent, purposeful cognitive challenges, learning a new instrument, engaging in social conversation, doing daily mental exercises, or practicing a language, the brain begins to rebuild and strengthen its networks. Functional MRI studies have shown that older adults who engage in daily learning activities, even as brief as 15 minutes a day, exhibit increased connectivity in regions associated with attention, working memory, and emotional resilience. This becomes especially important when walking less or becoming physically less active, a common transition around the age of 70. Movement is a powerful stimulator of the brain because it integrates multiple systems: proprioception, balance, cardiovascular function, and coordination. As that decreases, it becomes even more critical to maintain cognitive demand through intentional practices. Simple activities like recalling detailed memories, teaching others a skill, solving puzzles, or doing fine motor tasks like painting or knitting can all drive neuroplasticity. These are not hobbies, they are interventions, and they work because the brain never gives up on learning. It simply waits for clear, intentional direction. The other major driver of plasticity at this stage is emotional and social engagement. The prefrontal cortex and limbic system, which regulate mood, identity, and interpersonal relationships, remain highly plastic well into old age. Conversations, storytelling, teaching younger generations, or being part of community interactions provide a steady dose of dopamine, oxytocin, and acetylcholine, neurochemicals directly tied to cognitive maintenance. When someone after 70 continues to mentor, connect, or explore new roles in society, the brain doesn't shrink into silence. It lights up with relevance and purpose. What the research suggests is simple but profound. Neuroplasticity isn't gone at 70. It's simply waiting for precise instructions. Without deliberate use, the brain will economize, but with consistent, purposeful engagement, mental, emotional, and social, it remains remarkably capable of growth, repair, and innovation. In this stage of life, the brain doesn't ask for more. It asks for better. Strength and stability become more important than endless steps after the age of 70. While walking is often recommended as a form of exercise for older adults, it is not the most efficient or protective form of movement at this stage in life. The nervous system and musculoskeletal system begin to shift their priorities. What was once primarily about endurance and calorie burning becomes more focused on maintaining postural integrity, joint support, and neuromuscular coordination. In other words, walking can be good, but it's not enough. The system no longer benefits most from quantity of movement. It thrives on quality and purpose. This is where strength training and balance work become essential tools for preserving independence, preventing injury, and extending lifespan. Scientific studies have repeatedly shown that muscle mass, particularly in the legs and core, is directly correlated with longevity and fall resistance. Sarcopenia, or age-related muscle loss, begins accelerating in the 7th decade of life, but it is not inevitable. With consistent resistance-based training, even as little as 2 to 3 times per week, adults over 70 can not only maintain but also increase muscle size and strength. This directly translates to real-world outcomes: the ability to get out of a chair without help, walk up stairs, carry groceries, or catch oneself during a near fall. Strength is not a luxury at this age, it's a form of insurance. It keeps the body safe and the nervous system calibrated. In fact, strength training stimulates the release of growth factors, increases insulin sensitivity, and reduces chronic inflammation, all of which support better metabolic and cognitive health. Stability is the often overlooked counterpart to strength. As the vestibular system, which controls balance and spatial orientation, naturally declines with age, it becomes even more critical to train it consciously. Exercises that challenge balance, such as standing on one leg, using wobble boards, or performing slow, controlled transitions from sitting to standing, activate deep stabilizing muscles, and improve the feedback loops between the brain and body. When stability is trained consistently, it enhances reaction time, prevents missteps, and improves confidence during daily movement. This is important because many people unconsciously begin to avoid complex movements out of fear of falling, which ironically accelerates the very decline they're trying to avoid. By training stability directly, you not only preserve your capacity to move, you reduce fear, which itself is a major inhibitor of physical activity. All of this creates a self-reinforcing loop. Strength gives the body the power to move and resist decline. Stability gives the nervous system confidence to allow that movement. Together, they form a biological foundation for continued engagement with life. Walking still has value, especially when it's done with intention and awareness. But relying on walking alone to support long-term physical health after 70 is like expecting a basic multivitamin to fix a broken bone. It's not targeted enough. Strength and stability are precise levers that speak directly to the body's needs in this phase of life. Deliberate stillness is powerful, especially in the years following the age of 70, when the nervous system begins to crave regulation more than stimulation. While movement, activity, and engagement are essential for health, the capacity to slow down and engage the parasympathetic nervous system becomes a central pillar of vitality. After decades of responding to stress, adapting to change, and navigating the complexity of life, the body requires opportunities to recalibrate. Stillness, when used with intention, is not passive. It is a biological intervention, a signal to the brain and body that it is safe to repair, to integrate, and to rewire. The key is that the stillness must be purposeful. It must be structured in a way that communicates directly with systems responsible for healing, memory consolidation, emotional processing, and cellular restoration. The practice of deliberate stillness engages the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to major organs and helps regulate the autonomic nervous system. Techniques such as slow nasal breathing, box breathing, and extended exhalation are especially effective in activating the parasympathetic branch. This activation results in a reduction in heart rate, lower blood pressure, decreased inflammation, and an increase in heart rate variability, one of the most reliable markers of physiological resilience. Even just 5 to 10 minutes a day of focused breathing can produce measurable changes in cortisol levels, leading to improved mood, sharper cognitive performance, and better sleep quality. These outcomes are not theoretical. They are supported by decades of neurobiological research. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It is about creating the internal conditions under which the brain and body can do their best work without external distraction. Deliberate stillness also plays a crucial role in emotional regulation. As people age, the ability to process complex feelings becomes more important than ever. Life experiences accumulate, losses, transitions, uncertainties, and without a practice that allows for emotional integration, those stressors can build up and manifest as chronic tension or emotional fatigue. Engaging in stillness, particularly in forms like meditation, guided breathwork, or silent reflection, allows the limbic system to downregulate. This promotes clarity, patience, and the capacity to reframe challenges without reactivity. It's not about becoming emotionally numb, but becoming emotionally precise, able to sit with discomfort and let it move through the system rather than being trapped by it. On a neurological level, periods of stillness also improve synaptic pruning and memory consolidation. During restful, focused non-sleep states, the brain clears unused synaptic connections and strengthens the ones that are repeatedly activated. This means better recall, faster problem solving, and more effective learning, even in later life. It's also important to note that deliberate stillness doesn't require elaborate rituals. A quiet moment in a chair, eyes closed with attention on the breath, can be enough to initiate a cascade of beneficial physiological processes. What matters is the consistency and the intention behind the practice. With regular use, deliberate stillness becomes a powerful tool for maintaining mental sharpness, emotional balance, and physical health long after activity levels have naturally declined. Purpose-driven connection is medicine, particularly in the later stages of life when social roles may shift and opportunities for interaction often become less frequent. After the age of 70, many people retire, experience changes in family structure, or face mobility limitations that naturally reduce their daily social engagement. But the need for meaningful connection doesn't diminish with age, it becomes even more vital. The human brain evolved for social interaction. Connection isn't a luxury, it's a requirement for maintaining cognitive sharpness, emotional regulation, and even immune function. When we engage in purpose-driven relationships, conversations that matter, shared experiences that involve mutual respect, teaching, listening, and mentorship, we activate networks in the brain that produce neurochemicals tied to motivation, learning, and longevity. At the neurobiological level, social connection triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin, both of which reinforce feelings of safety, trust, and reward. These chemicals do more than just improve mood. They have downstream effects on inflammation, cardiovascular health, and even neuroplasticity. Studies on aging populations consistently show that individuals who maintain regular, meaningful social interactions score higher on cognitive tests, are less likely to experience depression, and even live longer. But the key isn't just social activity, it's purposeful interaction. It's not about being around people, it's about having a reason to connect, whether that's through teaching, caregiving, storytelling, or community involvement. Purpose amplifies the neurological benefits of connection. This is especially powerful when older adults engage in roles where they feel needed or valued. Mentoring younger individuals, offering guidance based on life experience, or contributing skills in a volunteer setting are not just emotionally fulfilling. They are biologically protective. These actions engage areas of the brain responsible for goal-directed behavior and reward anticipation, stimulating pathways that counteract the neural decline often associated with isolation. Being of service provides the brain with a reason to stay active, focused, and emotionally regulated. The sense of purpose reinforces identity and strengthens the feedback loop between thought, behavior, and physiological well-being. In addition to the cognitive and emotional benefits, purposeful social connection helps regulate the body's stress response. Chronic loneliness has been shown to elevate cortisol levels, increase systemic inflammation, and impair sleep, all of which accelerate biological aging. In contrast, feeling connected to others reduces stress markers and enhances resilience. Even short, heartfelt conversations or regular phone calls with people who matter can stabilize mood and create a sense of continuity in life. The predictability of a social rhythm, knowing someone expects to hear from you or values your input, creates a structured sense of time and responsibility, which is deeply grounding in older adulthood. Importantly, digital communication, while not a perfect substitute for face-to-face interaction, can still produce many of these neurochemical benefits when used intentionally. Voice calls, video chats, and even thoughtful text exchanges allow for emotional tone and context, keeping the social brain engaged. When approached with intention and sincerity, These interactions sustain the circuits responsible for empathy, perspective taking, and emotional expression. The human brain doesn't simply want to connect, it thrives on it, especially when that connection is rooted in shared meaning and purpose.